With this, I get a sense of the photographer having these bananas, having this basket. He put the bananas in the basket. Obviously, he arranged them because when you have a bunch of bananas, they're not intertwined like that. But it captures this moment of artistic perception, of serendipity. And it's like, wow, look at all of these spirals just going round and round, and the interweaving of the reeds of the basket and also of the bananas. And what I really love, where in Fenton's photograph you have a sense of going beyond the picture frame, here it takes you right into the center. It's like a spiraling vortex, and you go into the heart of it, trying to follow the light. The thing that amazes me, one of the things that amazes me about Weston is that he takes a fruit like a banana. Granted, it's more commonplace today than it was in 1930, but it's still, a pretty ordinary fruit. And yet he invested with this sense of mystery, this awe, this wonder, what it is, essential banana-ness, and yet it is something so much more that, when you enter into it. See, I don't even like bananas. It's really weird. I won't tell you how old I am. I have never in my life eaten a whole banana, just peeled and eaten it. It's
that
so
makes
strange.
me very sad.
Yeah. But I love these bananas.
It's so interesting that you talk about the essential banana-ness, because when I think about Weston and I think about how he works, I think of his paintings of nudes, which are abstracted to look like forms, and how these fruits could also be nudes or forms. And Maite, you were saying about how they managed to be both penile and vaginal at the same time.
Charlie was saying that. Yes, they are. They're both phallic and vaginal at the same time.
Which is really an accomplishment, I think.
Unless you're hermaphrodite.
It's completion in itself.
And interesting, fascinating to me, because I'm not enough of an art historian to know, but with Weston, do we start to enter into the realm of what could be considered to be food porn, where images of food, and I don't mean porn in a bad way. I mean it in the way of where food starts to appeal, the image of food starts to appeal to us in and of itself for its own sensualness, and how we as humans relate to that in terms of sustenance and sensuality.
I think maybe it does. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I look through a cookbook and it's a picture that drives me to make that recipe, and be like, oh, that looks really good. Oh, I want to eat that. I want to make that.
Do any of you think that photographs that that we see so much now, this documentation of what we eat, do you think that is losing the sensuality, or do you think it's increasing it?
I think the ones that are so immediate, like the ones in the New York Times article, I think that's more of just a quick snapshot, and I think it definitely loses. I mean, I see this, and I think this is so sensual. It's so beautiful, and the artist, the photographer is looking it's so formal, and the color and the shadows and everything is really well planned and thought out, and it's really bringing out the form of what we're looking at and the shapes of what we're looking at. I mean, it's as beautiful as one of his nudes, and these peas do the same thing.
Those are beautiful.
Yeah, they're really
peas.
beautiful.
Yeah,
peas.
I think there's something to the minimalism of these Westons and also the Quigley that is up there now, because you're really focused on the essential object. And with the photographs that the bloggers are taking, there are some that are great, but for the most part, I don't think of them as food photographs. I think of them as photographs of food. And in my mind, those are two different categories.
Yeah, and I think the brilliance of the Western and the Eggos is that you go beyond it. It becomes a symbol, becomes a metaphor. It generates a larger conversation than just, these are pictures of bananas. Here's a photograph of 6 peas, which I think just the snapshots of what is appearing on blogs and stuff don't do. This is what I ate today. It isn't symbolic, isn't metaphorical. We're not having a larger conversation beyond this point.
Or are we?
And I
Let's
guess
get
just,
Maybe we are.
just to be a little snarky, and forgive me, all you bloggers out there, but there's something essentially narcissistic about many blogs, and I think that kind of
Really?
yes, that kind of documentation of instead of, I don't know how you feel at your restaurant, but instead of going in and experiencing the meal, if you have to take the photograph of what I ate so that it can be posted, to me that is a remove. It's a distancing from the food rather than an engagement with it.
That's interesting. I was, one of the people I follow on Twitter is Grant Achatz, who's the chef of Alinea in Chicago, who does very super considered multi-course tasting meals, and he's considering actually putting in a series of rules in the restaurant because the food photography has become an impediment to people enjoying the meal.